Hello, this is Lesson 5, Chapter 2. It's going to all be about arrays. You can see this over here, how nice that looks. You might think that involves a lot of copying or mirroring, but it doesn't. We're going to just draw one of these right here, and then it's going to array itself into all these rows and all these columns. That's rectangular array. Then we're going to do polar arrays in a circle. So the first thing we want to do is create a little thing. We're going to create this little thing that we want to array. And it's going to be a pentagon, a polygon with 5 sides. It's going to have a diameter of 1. I'll talk about that in a second. And then this little stick coming up there. And I'm going to show you what that's all about. Okay, so let's draw that over here. Let's see. There we go. So I'm going to draw a polygon. I'm going to click on that. You can see from the previous chapter, 6 is sitting there. I don't want it to be 6. I want it to be 5. So I type in 5 and enter. The center of the polygon, let's draw that out here somewhere. Let's do it right there. I've clicked there. I want it to be inscribed. That's why I showed you that. That polygon is inside that circle. So C is sitting there. That's the last one I did in the previous lesson. So I have to make sure I type in I and spacebar right there. And you can see, just a little tricky right here. It has a diameter of 1, but I want to see the radius. So I can do that in my head, actually. The radius is going to be 0.5. And enter. There's my little thing. Now I need to do a stick. That's just a line. That's going to be 1 long as well. I'm going to pull that out this way. 1 and enter. And that is what I'm going to array. Okay, so now I'm going to take this set of objects and I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it off to the side. I'm going to put it here so I can array it, and then I'm going to put it over there too. You'll see why later. So I'm going to CO for copy that. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to copy it. There's for the rectangular array. And then I'm going to copy it out here for that first polar array and put it here for that second polar array. And this is just leaving it behind in case I want it. So now I'm going to do a rectangular array. I'm going to do this array right here. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Array, I usually come up here and find the button. I don't even know if there's a shortcut for array, but I click on here, and I don't want to just click. I actually do want to drop that menu down right there. So I'm going to click on it, and there's a couple of arrays. We're going to do rectangular and polar today, but we're going to start with the rectangular. So click on rectangular and select the objects. I'll use a little window to select those and say enter. And something interesting happens. Look at that. We get a whole new ribbon up there. Sure enough, it's rectangular, and you can see it just automatically did a couple of things. This is just sitting in there, and you can see automatically it's 3 rows, was just waiting for me, 1, 2, 3, and 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure why they automatically give that. I don't know why that's so popular. But they do. But there's a couple of things that I need to fix with that. First thing is that I want more than 1 column. I mean more than 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So up here in the ribbon, I'm going to change columns from 4 to 6. And let's see, I just hit enter and it changed that. It got out of that. So I didn't want to get out of it. So I'm going to come down here and double click on that array. And there I am back in it. Usually it doesn't kick me out, but just in case it does, go ahead and double click on the array you just created to get back in. Rows is a little bit wrong too. I don't want 3 rows. I want 2, 3. I want 5 rows. So let me put in 5 and enter. And if I pull out this way, you can see, hey, I'm going way up there. Should I have started that thing down here? Well, I'm doing that for a reason. So yes, indeed, let me go ahead and shut that. It'll come up a little bit of information there. And it's still not quite the way I want it. You can see this is going to be the rows, but I want to have spacing between the rows and columns. So for this one, between the rows right now, and for reasons I'm not sure, the spacing between those columns is what, 1 and 7/16. But I really don't want 1 and 7/16. If you look at your drawing down here, you can see that the spacing I want between the columns is going to be 2. These are columns. I want a 2 spacing in there. So instead of 1 7/16, I'm going to come in right there and I'm going to type in 2 and enter. And you can see they're now a little bit further apart. Same thing with the rows. The rows right now is 2 7/8. What a strange spacing. I want it to be 3. So I'm coming up here. This is rows I'm looking at. Between the rows, I'm going to change that to 3 and watch. Let me show you. Let me show you what they'll do. The rows will space a little bit more. I need to come back up there and click. I want it to be 3 and enter. And the rows just got a little further apart. Now again, I'm all the way up here. I'm flopping over into all these things I did earlier, and somehow I accidentally made some copies of that. I did some arrays with that, which I didn't really want to do. But now let me come down here, and instead it obeyed me exactly. I put in 3, and it obeyed me by giving it a spacing like this, 3, 3, 3. But I wanted it to come down this way, and I'm just too lazy to move that array. So instead of 3 right there, guess what I'm going to put in? I'm going to put in -3. I want it to space downward, so I just typed in -3. I'm going to click enter, and there we go there. And again, I'm not sure exactly how I managed to click this up here, but that looks kind of crazy. But I'm down here now, and here is my rectangular array. And if you ever want to go back in, let's say I get out of it, let's say escape, I'm back out of it, and I change my mind on the number of rows, the amount of spacing, I can come in here and double click, and it gives me a little bit of information here. I could change things here. Let's see, I could change that to 10 if I wanted. See, I've got 10 rows there, but that's not actually what I want. I want to go back to 5, enter. But I can change all that spacing just from this little shortcut that pops up, this little window that pops up whenever I double click on it. But if I don't want to do that, it's kind of redundant. I can fix it here, or I can fix it here. Let's not worry about levels or any of the other properties right here. Let's just go ahead and stop with that. But that's the basics of rows right there. I'm sorry, the basics of arrays in a rectangular pattern. And so now let's finish this up by doing arrays in polar pattern. So let's move this one over here just a little bit. M for move. Going to step on it, get over here. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing. M for move that over here so it doesn't step on anybody's toes. So now let's go back up to array. Here's array. And I should have done the drop-down menu. I'm going to do a polar array this time. And it's waiting for me, polar array. And I'm going to do these objects right here. So I selected them, no more. I'm going to say enter. And now it says the center point of the array. I can pick all sorts of different ones, but in this case, I'm going to do the center point right here. And I'm going to click on that. Well, look up here. That ribbon pops up again. It's a polar array, and it chooses now the number of, I don't have rows and columns, obviously, but it chooses the number of items. Again, I'm not sure why it picks 6, but if you look at your drawing, we want 8 of those. So I've blocked out 6. I'm going to type in 8 and enter. And that didn't see, there we go. It takes a minute to get in there. But now I have an array of 8 items. Now, here's a little quirk about this too. Let's say I'm just going to click on this once, not twice, because I don't want the ribbon to come up. You can see these are not individual pieces. They're all joined together. Well, let's say from this one, I just wanted to get rid of this piece. I wanted to get rid of this pentagon right here, and that pentagon as well. But if I click on it and I hit delete, I delete the whole thing. I don't want to do that. So I'm not sure why it does this. Let me double click and check one thing right here. No, I'd like to break that into pieces, and it's not quite letting me do that. So if I wanted to get rid of this and this object right here, what I'd have to do is explode that array. And this is not the best thing. I wish it would give me the option of having these be joined together or not joined together. But let me explode that. Once I've exploded it, let me try that again. EXP for explode. There's explode. I click on that, I hit enter, and now I can go in if I want it, not in this case, but not in future cases, but in this case I do, and I can explode that and fix that if I wanted. But let me undo all that, get those things back there, make it an array again. Yep, I've gone all the way back. So arrays are quirky. Arrays are not always your friend. They'll do some strange things. You might need to call on me for help or do a little research on that. So I'm going to escape down to here, and now I'm going to do another polar array. And where's my polar array? Here's array, polar. I'm going to click those objects right there. And here's, that didn't take. Let me try that again. Polar array. I want to select these objects right here. Enter. There we go. The same thing, I'm going to do another center point array around here. But I'm going to do one thing a little bit different. See how this says rotate items? And see how they rotated? This was my original thing. This was my original pentagon right here. And when they arrayed, you can see they rotated. You can see the angle here. Now it's lying on its side. Here it is. Here it's upside down. Rotating some more, pointing left. Rotate some more, pointing upwards. I won't always want that. Perhaps these are seats that I all want to be facing front or something like that, and I don't want it to array. In that case, go ahead and unclick this one. See where it says rotate items up here? Up at the top, I'm going to click on that, and I don't want it to rotate, and you can see what just happened. It rotated around this center point, but all of those things are facing in the same direction. You won't use that very often. The only time I've ever used that is when I was arranging something inside of an office space. But in that case, we're done with it. Just two little quirky things to do with arrays. But now you've learned how to do rectangular ones. You've learned how to do polar ones. Just for fun, you could go up and start messing around with all these to see what kind of crazy arrays you can get. You can get some really big ones. You have to be a little bit careful because they take up a lot of memory in your drawing and you may get stuck someplace. But that's the end of the lesson, and I will see you for chapter number 3, in which case we are going to do a pretty simple one with extend. Thanks.